It's Jessie David from Metal Wani here, and joining me today is Vivian Campbell of Def Leppard and Last in Line. How's it going today?
It's going great. Thank you very, very much. It's a beautiful day in Southern California.
Oh, excellent to hear. Well, 2019 is a busy year for you. We have a tour, we have a new album on the way, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How are you managing so far?
Well, I enjoy my work, so it's all good, you know. You say 2019 is a busy year. Actually, 2018 was a super busy year in a lot of ways with Leppard. You know, we had a massive world tour, and I was recording with Last in Line when I wasn't touring with Leppard. Yes, every year is a busy year. But like I said, I enjoy my work. You know, I feel very, very fortunate to get to do this, not just with one great band, but with two, you know. It's two very, very different bands. I mean, Leppard, obviously, you know, is the more well-known by far. And, you know, it's just a fantastic band, Leppard. I think we keep getting better and better, and our audience is growing. And, you know, generationally, we're getting a younger generation coming into the shows. And it's a great time to be in Def Leppard. We have this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing coming up on March 29th. We get inducted to the Hall of Fame, and that feels very grown up, I've got to say. You know, it's and I think long overdue for a band like Def Leppard. You know, we've had great commercial success for many, many, many years, but we haven't always gotten a lot of industry recognition, so it's nice to get that. And, you know, Last in Line is a very different proposition altogether. You know, it's a nascent band. You know, we're growing. We're about to release our second album this week, and you know, we're out there just playing clubs and theaters and doing our thing. And it's very, very different to the Def Leppard experience. You know, much more aggressive music, much more guitar driven. You know, Leppard's a very polished show. You know, and Last in Line, we have no production budget, so essentially you get four guys in black t-shirts. You know, that's the extent of a Last in Line production.
Well, Last in Line, like you said, coming out with a new album this year. Before we touch on that, take me back. How did you guys all come back together?
You know, for anyone who doesn't know, Last in Line is the name of the second Dio album that was released in 1984. And it kind of grew out of the ashes of the original Dio band. It was something that we put together about a year or a year and a half after Ronnie Dio passed away. Ronnie passed in 2010, and about the middle of 2011 or so, I had just finished doing a brief tour of Europe as a guitar player for Thin Lizzy. And I never joined Thin Lizzy. They borrowed me. I always kind of referred it as I was a stunt guitar player, you know. Scott Gorham called and asked if I could, if I had a couple of months free, if I could go do this European tour with them, and Leppard weren't busy at the time, so I signed up in a heartbeat for that, because Thin Lizzy were a really, really influential band to me when I was a teenager and really honing my craft as a guitarist. And, you know, I came back off of that tour, I was just so excited about playing guitar again. Like, really excited. I felt like we were 17, and I just wanted to play aggressive guitar and just for fun. So I called up Vinny Appice and Jimmy Bain, the original drummer and bass player from the original Dio lineup, and you know, we'd always been friends over the years, even though we didn't see each other that often. And we went in the rehearsal room and we started playing, and we hadn't played together at that point. I think it was something like 27 years since we played together. And as soon as we started jamming and started playing, it was it was like, you know, it could have been 27 minutes. I mean, the chemistry was just so immediate and so apparent, and we all got super excited. I mean, like, I just got goosebumps just playing with those guys again. And so, long story short, one thing leads to another. We decided to do it again, and Vinny said, you know, be more fun if we had a singer here, and he knew Andrew Freeman, who I'd never met, and he invited Andrew in, and Andrew comes in and starts singing. And you know, Andrew's a really, really strong and passionate and powerful singer like Ronnie was, but the tonality of his voice is completely different. So it just sounded like an interesting, fun thing to me. I said, let's go do some shows, you know, and I immediately said, let's call it Last in Line, because it made sense, because Ronnie had passed away, and Jimmy and Vinny and I were the last in line, and that's the name of a song and an album from our Dio catalog. And but had I known that, we'd be here talking about on the eve of the release of our second album of original music. I don't think I would have called the band Last in Line, just because we've grown way beyond that. We're no longer just playing our early Dio catalog now. We're playing original music as well. So I understand it's a little bit confusing, because we're named after the second Dio album, and that's part of the reason why I elected to call this album 2. Because I know it's not an original title by any means, but LIL2 just kind of streamlines things. I kind of like to reference the band now more as LIL, and I think anyone who's familiar with, would understand what we're talking about. To kind of move it away and move it into the future as its own creative entity, and the other reason I elected to name the album 2 was that it really does sound like a band's second album. We're really finding our own sound, and there's still a lot of that obvious Dio tonality there, because there's Vinny and I playing, and we were part of the original Dio band, so that's something that we do naturally. It's not like we try and make it sound that way. That's just the sound that we make. But now we have Phil Suzanne in the band, because Jimmy passed away, unfortunately, in early 2016, and we've had 3 years playing with Phil, and he's very much cut from the same cloth as Jimmy. He can very similar, but different in many ways, and Andrew's really grown into his own style as a singer and a writer within this band, and we sound like a band now that's found our own sound. I think, and that's this second album. It really sounds like an album of growth to me. So those are the reasons why I wanted to just call the album 2. And it's great now to go out and do these shows. We've been playing some shows in advance of the release of the album, and we've been able to play. Pardon me. We've been able to play a lot more original music, because now we have 2 original albums to draw from to mix with those Dio classics from the early Dio records. So it's an exciting time to be in the band, and I can't emphasize enough how joyous an experience it is to me to play with those guys and to play this music and to kind of reconnect with that fiery passion that I felt as a teenager, what first really motivated and drove me to want to do this and to play guitar like that.
How has it been working with Phil?
Great. He's a really good musician. Great writer as well as a great player. He and Jimmy, like I said before, cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways. At the time when Jimmy and Vinny and I were playing with Ronnie back in the 80s, Phil was playing with Ozzy Osbourne. So he really understands the genre, I suppose, because we all kind of came from that ex-Black Sabbath stuff. He gets the fundamental nature of it, but he's also a very ambitious player, much more than Jimmy was. I've said in interviews before, perhaps it's easier to explain that Phil probably plays a bit more like Geezer Butler does within Sabbath. He's a bit more of a busy bass player and less fundamental.
Yeah.
So, and that's good, but he's not just playing. I don't mean to make it sound like he's playing for the sake of it. I mean, he's very thoughtful about what he plays and where he plays it. He carves out these spaces, and so it makes, it's a very interesting musical band because we're all kind of intricate players. Vinny, is a very ambitious drummer and never really plays the same thing twice. So Vinny's constantly moving, and the goalposts are moving. So you really have to be on your toes. And when you play with a drummer like Vinny, and Phil really kind of gets it, So we can be very spontaneous when we play these live shows. We're not afraid to go off and do stuff on a whim, and that's an exciting thing to do as a musician. To have that chemistry with the people you're playing with.
I had a chance to listen to the new album. I immediately was a fan, especially on the track Gods and Tyrants. There's this spectacular break that really just highlights, I found, your skills. Would you say that you have a preference in style when you're playing in Last in Line compared to Def Leppard?
They're two entirely different bands. I'm the only melodic instrument in Last in Line. In Def Leppard, it's myself and Phil. and it's a very, very different way of playing guitar. The Leppard thing, our vocals are really the main focus. We don't have extended guitar solos in Last in Line, in Def Leppard. The songs are concise, they're constructed, very melodic, very orchestrated, particularly in the vocals. It's like Def Leppard's kind of like a layer cake. There's a lot going on there, and it's all there to serve a purpose. Last in Line is a more organic, straightforward hard rock band, and I don't even sing in Last in Line. I mean, to me, I kind of fundamentally look at it as exercising two different muscles. In Last in Line, I'm the only guitar player, so I'm doing all the heavy lifting, and that's kind of my focus, and I just put my head down and play guitar. In Def Leppard, like I say, the songs, we're there to serve the songs, and the songs are very vocal intense, and that's kind of where my major emphasis is with Def Leppard. We're all singing in every song, and the guitar parts are challenging by all means, but they're a lot more focused. Phil and I in Leppard, we play. It's not just straightforward where one plays a rhythm part and one plays a solo like most hard rock bands. I mean, it's very orchestrated guitar parts in most of the songs. It's a much more clinical approach to playing guitar, I suppose, than Last in Line, which is, like I said, a bit more free form and organic and wild, I suppose. So like I said, I really kind of look at it as two very, very different bands, but two spectacular bands. I mean, Def Leppard just keeps getting better and better and better. I mean, year after year, we keep finessing our craft in the show, and everything about it just becomes more refined and more spectacular, and Last in Line is a club band, I wasn't kidding when I said four guys in black t-shirts. I mean, that's really all we have, but it's a very musical kind of thing to it, and it's a very organic and spontaneous thing, and you don't know what you're going to get with a Last in Line show. I mean, I don't even know what we're going to get. Like I said, sometimes we just go off on these musical tangents at the end of the song, and it's like, what is this, like 1960, 1969 all over again? I mean, we just kind of go freeform, and that's without drugs. I can't imagine if we're all stoned.
Oh, man. Then it'd be a party. Well, last year, Def Leppard released a new 2-disc best of compilation featuring a new Christmas song, a remix of Rock On. Do you think you're going to be releasing anything new Def Leppard-wise this year? I know you guys are very busy.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say we'd get it. No, definitely not getting anything out this year, but there are rumblings that we'll be doing some new music soon. I think it's kind of due. We're always, in Leppard, everyone writes, and we're always individually coming up with ideas, and on occasion we'll share them with each other, and then eventually we'll schedule some time to get over to the studio. Usually it's in Dublin at Joe's place, and put something out. It might not be a full album. Maybe we'll just cut a couple of tracks or do an EP or something. I don't really know. I mean, I just know that it's on the horizon. Certainly, by next year, I would guess we'd be thinking about recording and releasing something.
So it's safe to say that maybe 2020 we could be seeing some new Def Leppard?
Hindsight is 2020.
That's right.
It's quite possible. I don't know. I'm sure we'll be recording something by then or before then. I mean, as to when stuff gets released, that's beyond my my knowledge. Like I said, I'm usually the last to know these things.
Well, congrats are in order, by the way. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Really excited. Def Leppard will be inducted March 29th. How does it feel, or how did it feel when you found out you guys were going to be inducted?
It's not something that we would spend a lot of time thinking about beforehand, but after it's happened, it's like, oh yeah, well that's just really cool. And the more time passes, and the more you get to reflect upon it, the more it kind of sinks in, and you think, oh, this is really cool. And, it feels very grown up. I think that it's something that we deserve, to be honest. The band has a legacy. The band's been together over 40 years and has created that tremendous body of work. Sold multi-millions of records, around the world, and we continue to refine our craft and our show, and it's a good feeling, to be honest. I mean, but like I say, it's not something that we would have spent a lot of time thinking about prior to it. I think one thing that really, really resonates with us is the fact that we got the largest ever popular vote.
Yes, you
that
did.
really kind of resonates with us. That means a lot to us, because our fan base has always been very, very loyal with Leppard, and that's always been the award that we've always put our emphasis on. Is that pleasing our fan base and putting on as good a show as we can, and making the music the best that it can be. Writing the best songs, making the best records. Doing the best live show, singing as good as we can. Just really refining every aspect. In terms of industry recognition, I mean, I've always long felt that Def Leppard kind of got sidelined and ignored. And this goes way back to before I was in the band. I was always a Leppard fan from day one. I remember the first Leppard record I bought was the Wasted single. And, I bought every record after that. I was a Def Leppard fan prior to Joe calling and asking if I wanted to join Def Leppard. So it's interesting. So I have this perspective outside of the band, before I joined. And I remember in 1987 when the Hysteria record came out, I was completely dumbfounded as to why Def Leppard not only didn't win a Grammy, didn't even get nominated for a Grammy.
Yeah.
An album, one of the biggest selling albums of all time, and a landmark record in so many ways, and just got completely ignored by the industry. So that kind of cemented my views, if you like, of industry awards. I don't put a lot of stock in them on a personal level. It's much more meaningful to have a fan base than it is to have a bunch of Grammys, I suppose, or gold records on your wall. It's we're musicians and we're creative people, and we write music and we record music and we put it out there, and sometimes it resonates with people, and other times it just withers on the vine. But the real reward is in the beauty of the music and creating something beautiful and playing it live night after night is to me personally the greatest reward of all, and seeing the joy that it brings to people. So, but then having said that, every now and again you get something like this, and you can reflect and then you think, oh, well, that's cool. That's something to brag to my kids about. when they get sloppy with me or stroppy, and talk back to me, say, hey, I'm in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's
you
right.
Can't talk to me like that.
Do you guys have anything special planned for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, you know what? It only occurred to me recently. It's on the same night as Brexit, March 29th. And we're a British band.
Yeah.
And Britain's about to crash out of the EU. It's like, and I hope that's not an ominous sign. But that didn't occur to me until recently. I'm thinking, oh my God, it's the same night as Brexit. So it's I don't know what we're going to play, to be honest. I'd imagine it'd be a few of the big songs. We're not going to go out there and play something obscure, I'm sure. We'll see how it goes. It'll be a fun evening. I've never done this before, so it'll be an experience for all of us.
I did want to ask you a more personal question, if that's all right. I've seen firsthand how hard cancer and the treatments can be on somebody's body, and you were going through all of this and touring and continuing to play. How did you do it, and how are you feeling nowadays?
Well, I just had an infusion yesterday, so I'm a little tired today and a little coffee. Sorry for that.
No.
There we go again. So yeah, I've been very fortunate that for the last almost 4 years, I've been doing a therapy called immunotherapy, which is a name for a series of these new treatments and drugs that have come out over the last decade or so, which is a different way to treating cancer. I mean, I've done chemo for years, and I've done a stem cell transplant, and the cancer kept coming back. And then, say, almost 4 years ago, my wife actually did a little research and read something about this clinical trial that they were just going to start for people with lymphoma, which is what I have, Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so talked to my oncologist about it, and it turns out I was a perfect candidate for it because chemo had failed and stem cell transplant had failed. And so they thought, well, you got nothing else to lose. They wanted me to start radiation, which I really, really, really didn't want to do for so many reasons. And I elected to join a clinical trial. And I guess I must be the poster boy for this particular drug because it seems to have worked for me. You know, it's holding things in place, and you know, I still have the cancer there, but it's not gotten any worse in almost 4 years. So I just have to do these infusions about once a month. And to be honest, the hardest part of it is scheduling because I travel so much. But you had mentioned that I worked all through the chemo and stuff, and that's true. I mean, I think it's fair to say that my bandmates in Leppard didn't particularly want me to do that at first. For the obvious reason, they wanted me to stay at home and convalesce, and that would be the immediate reaction you would think, you know, that you would want for people you care about, you know, just to rest and look after yourself. But my work is what keeps me alive. You know, that's what motivates me, and that's what drives me, and it always has driven me. And if I weren't able to do that, I would have died of that, I'm quite sure. So I'm very thankful to the guys in Leppard that they took a chance with me. You know, there were a couple of nights where it was pretty ropey, but they let me go out there and do it. So yeah, I mean, that made a difference. You know, the fact that I was able to go out there and still get that feeling that I get from playing my guitar in front of a live audience, you know, that kept me alive, I'm sure of that.
I just have a few more questions left. With music and technology evolving, what are your thoughts on holograms? I know we've seen that with Prince and with Dio. What do you think about them?
Well, I've never seen one, so I don't really have an opinion on it. But I suppose, you know, if you missed the boat, so to speak, and you didn't get to see that person, like if somebody came up with a Jimi Hendrix hologram, yeah, I might go and see that, you know, because I never get to see Jimi Hendrix play. But you know, it is what it is. You know, a lot of people have asked that question of me in reference, obviously, to the Dio disciples doing it with the Ronnie hologram. You know, but I think when a lot of people ask me that question, they're looking for a negative spin on it because that seems to be the kind of thing that people want to go with. You know, I get the impression that people are always trying to conflate an issue, you know, between us and Dio disciples. I mean, I'm happy to see them do that because I think that what they do brings more attention to the Dio catalog, which in turn can only benefit us in Last in Line. And I think that what we're doing with Last in Line also draws attention to the Dio catalog because that's this band. And that in turn can only benefit Dio disciples. So it's a win-win in that way, you know, but I have no particular strong feelings about the hologram thing. Like I said, I've never ever personally witnessed a hologram performance. But if, you know, I got to play with Ronnie live, so I don't need to go see that, you know. I know how good he was. I got to stand behind him for many years playing guitar, you know. So, but there's many, many people out there who never got to see Ronnie while he was alive, so more power to them, you know.
And just one last question. Is there anything you would like to let your fans know?
Yeah, we've got an album coming out, and you know, it's a great record. I'm really, really proud of it, and the way I know it's great is because I wouldn't change a thing on it. And most records of my career that I've made, I'm always saying, I wish I had a chance of a redo at that. There's nothing I would change on the Last in Line 2 album. And as a guitar player, I really feel confident and happy with my playing. I feel like I'm really at the top of my game. I've never played better. I've never been happier doing it. And it brings me more joy than ever. So if you're into guitar music, check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed.